Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Reigniting Small Business, the podcast. I'm Laura Richards, COO of Spark Business Institute, and I am joined and happy about it again today by Monica Alvarado of Eastport's Bread and Butter Kitchen. Monica, we have so much to talk about today, but first, welcome and how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I was sharing with you before we got started that I just woke up from a nap. I had a massive migraine and was able to kind of rest, and I feel refreshed and ready to talk, so I'm good.
Excellent. Sorry to hear about the migraine, but thanks so
Nope,
much.
it's all gone.
So I guess first things first, you got some really exciting news on December 30th, right before the new year came in. Can you tell our listeners slash viewers a little bit about that?
Let's see. There's a couple things that happened. Are you talking about the Person of the Year award or the $1 million?
I know you're hungry, but let's start with Person of the Year, and then we'll roll into
Mhm.
$1 million. And only all of our folks we talk to have this much excitement to lead off a podcast, we'd be in great shape.
Right, exactly. So yeah, we I was invited out to lunch with a friend of mine. Went to Adams in Eastport and was enjoying a Bloody Mary when I was approached by a friend of mine, John O'Leary. For those that don't know, John O'Leary is obviously local here to Annapolis. Everyone knows him through the Warrior events, but probably more through his St. Patrick's Day parade, which he leads each year. And walked outside and was surprised with a crowd of people that I knew. And John O'Leary and Bob Saunders of Warrior Events presented me with the award for Person of the Year, which was really, really cool. Not expected, very overwhelming, but really appreciated. I think it, yeah, I don't even have words for it still. It's just crazy. And I appreciate it. So I'm excited about it. Probably the most exciting part, which I don't know that people knew when they gave the award, is that next year when they present this award, because this was the inaugural award, it will be done on during halftime at the Military Bowl, and I will be on on the 50-yard line handing that over to the next award winners. That's probably the most exciting part for me.
Well, I have goosebumps right now, and I actually watched the video, which was Channel 2 News. I think it's WMAR who was on hand videotaping that. And the takeaway that I had from this, Monica, one of the examples that somebody gave, they were like, "See the coat she has on? I gave her that coat because she literally took her coat off at an event and gave it to somebody who needed a coat." So
Yes, that's actually true. Very true. That was from my friend Bethany Swain. And Bethany, she is the behind the scenes person at Feed Anne Arundel. She has a background in videography. She worked for CNN and traveled the world with them, and now is a professor at University of Maryland teaching journalism and videography and social media. And she, as you can tell by many of the videos she's provided and created for us, is an excellent storyteller. And so yeah, she did present me with that jacket, and I love it.
that's amazing.
I can't give it away. It has Feed Anne Arundel on it. So,
All right, now tell us about the $1 million.
right. So in December, we had the opportunity to sit on a panel. There were with Stuart Pittman and his team, and I brought with me 6 different restaurant owners that have participated in Feed Anne Arundel, and it was really intended to be a discussion about the pain and the challenges that restaurants have had. And it just took a turn. And we really talked a lot about Feed Anne Arundel and how beneficial it had been. And it also opened up an opportunity for us to say to him, these are things that restaurants need. These are things that we are, we wanted our business licenses waived. We wanted help with the delivery services because they're really predatory and have taken advantage of so many businesses during the pandemic. And most importantly, we wanted more funding. And so a week later, I got a call from his chief of staff and Dr. Kate Boggus, and she said, "Hey, can you be on a press conference tomorrow? We have some great news." And I was told at that point that the county would be committing $1 million to Feed Anne Arundel, which was huge, absolutely huge. It allowed us immediately to expand our program, to add additional restaurants, and also ensure that this year we have some additional funding to keep us going in addition to, of course, all of the private donations that we've received as well. So it was a big deal. It was a good day.
That
A lot
is.
of good things happened. Mm-hmm.
That is. Well, and it's so nice to hear. We've heard about a lot of hardship the year was for a lot of folks in 2020. So it is nice to see the sunshine that's coming out of some of the seeds that you all planted and the fruits of your labors, more or less. It's just really super positive. So one of the things that I was telling you right before we got on the podcast was that at Spark Business Institute, what we really are passionate about is showing small businesses how powerful we really should be as a voice. We employ nearly 60 million people, which is 47.3% of the private workforce in our country. Yet we're constantly hearing about things that affect corporations that don't actually trickle down to small business. And what I love about what you've done with Feed Anne Arundel is you've united all of these small businesses to be able to collectively work together to experience something really beautiful and give back to the community. So you're strengthening businesses, you're strengthening relationships, you're strengthening communities, and all of it has such a beautiful outcome. You have fed more than 120,000 meals to folks.
Yes, we have, and you're right. It is beautiful, and I think beyond the people fed, which is obviously really critical, and it's so rewarding to see. We've saved multiple restaurants from closing. There are multiple restaurants that have participated that would have closed their doors had it not been for Feed Anne Arundel, and I think that is so powerful. And to your point, the communication, the collaboration, the community that we've built with our restaurants, we're like our own little mini coalition, right? So it has been such a beautiful experience working with these restaurants. We have this WhatsApp group chat, and we talk about everything from where do you get your napkins and takeout supplies, because guess what? We had a lot of takeout supplies this year, and yesterday, obviously, watching the news, we were all kind of sharing our thoughts and concerns. And so it is truly a community there. We are committed to helping each other overcome obstacles. We're in it together. And it's a really, it's interesting now in particular, as we've added about 25 to 30 new restaurants in December after we got the $1 million, for them to kind of jump into this pool of restaurants that are like a family. And we're trying to really make sure that they feel that same level of love and support, that this is not a competition. We want everybody to succeed. And we kind of coined our phrase as, Feed Anne Arundel came together to help each other. We are trying to help each other survive the pandemic so that we can later thrive. And that is really true. Right? I don't think these relationships will end after the pandemic. I think Feed Anne Arundel will certainly continue, and it may adjust and evolve a little bit as far as its mission and its focus. But most definitely, the relationships that we've created and the ability to really support each other has been one of the most rewarding parts of this for me personally.
That is just amazing to hear. And I think it is so important for people to really hear what you're saying, because the restaurant industry is really competitive and it can be really cutthroat. And sometimes, even if you're a nice person, you don't want to, you feel like that other guy, if they're eating at their restaurant, then they can only eat at my restaurant half as many times or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that collaboration and trust for you to build within a network of restaurants it's a testament to every single member.
Well, I think it really, and I can say it for me personally, when I first opened Bread and Butter Kitchen, there's a restaurant on the other end of the same exact street called Leeward Market. They have the same exact hours, 7 to 3 or 7:30 to 3. We serve breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. We are like one for one, and we are literally on the same exact street on the other side in Eastport. So it's like 4 blocks away. And she was one of the first people I called when we started Feed Anne Arundel. I called Michelle Kirby, who's the owner there, and I said, do you want to participate? And, there is no, I think when I first started my restaurant, I was like, oh, I have to be better than that. I have to get because there are these other restaurants that I'm now competing with, and I was new to the industry, and somewhat guarded about my menu. And it's like when anyone starts any business, how many people do you know that start a business and they don't want to tell you the business name because they don't want somebody to steal it? And I know, I can't tell you how many people, I can't tell you the name of the business because I need to get it, but I think you walk into these businesses, when you start a business, you're so, worried and wanting to make sure it's going to be successful. And so, yeah, you're right. Like the competition melts away and you are so much stronger together as a community of restaurants, right? Even on the same block, I can help her be successful and she can help me be successful. And, pandemic aside, I think that's something business people need to understand, that it is okay to talk to your competitors. It's okay to collaborate and kind of share. We're having the same aches and pains. And guess what? We can both be successful on the same exact street and have a working relationship. It's okay.
Not only is it okay, but if we can succeed together, then maybe we can help the guy on our right and the lady on our left succeed also. And I think things start to expand and they grow from it because we're better together.
Absolutely. And I will say, like, just with the restaurants that have participated, people have come into it from different backgrounds, right? I was telling you, my background is corporate IT, not restaurants, go figure. But there are people that have been in the restaurant industry for 30 years. We have people who had just opened a restaurant, had just gotten started when the pandemic started, and we've now had these mentorship relationships start. One guy who's owns a pizza shop called Three Brothers is mentoring another guy who owns a franchise called Pizza Bullies, right? And the new guy from Pizza Bullies is learning a tremendous amount from this guy who's been doing this for 30 years and is about to retire, right? And he's more than happy. Let me tell you all of the things that you need to do to be successful. It's awesome. It's beautiful. It's the way it should be.
That it really is. It really is. It's amazing. So I wanted to have a quick conversation with you. We also talked a little bit about a mutual friend, Jordan Foley, who I thought it was very interesting when you and I were talking about your background and coming from the Air Force. I was like, you remind me of another, entrepreneur that's doing philanthropic work in the food service industry area. And he had come on our podcast just about a month ago to talk about Chow. And I think he's pressed pause, but basically what Chow is set up to do is to take military veterans who and help them find employment within the restaurant industry, whether that's running their own business, food truck, or just being able to get a better job from their military service within the food service industry. So I thought that was cool. And I wanted to see if we would talk a little bit about just the military, your penchant for service, because he very much has a very strong affinity for service and feels like that's both borne out and supported by his commitment to the military.
No, I think that's absolutely true. And I joined the Air Force right out of high school, and that experience obviously puts in, for many people, not all, for many people who join the military, you learn, you walk away with a super strong work ethic. You walk away with the ability to understand how to work with other people from different backgrounds. You understand the importance of mission and not letting obstacles get in the way. You understand how to be self-sufficient, to fix problems on your own. And, that planted the seed for me personally. And I think for Jordan, obviously, as you look towards, entrepreneurship and your career after the military absolutely. It's all about service. It's about doing the right thing and pursuing opportunities, not just for yourself, but for others around you. And so Jordan is, I think you and I were chatting about this. He just blows me away. He's so smart. He's so talented. He's so passionate. And I think his unique background is very similar to mine. It's just this waving path of different directions we've taken in our careers. But at the core of it, you're right. It's service. It's service to the community. It's service to our country. That carries forward in almost everything that we do.
It must be why I enjoy talking to both of you so much. Really, I really admire what you're doing. So I wanted to talk a little bit too about the other organizations who've been working with you at Feed Anne Arundel. I know we talked briefly about Ryan Sermons, who is the lead organizer for ACT Anne Arundel Connecting Together. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, and as well as Children, Youth, and Family organization, the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation. What I'd like you to touch on is obviously each of those and how they interconnect, with in keeping in mind that I'm trying to demonstrate to people who might be listening, who might be thinking about how can I make connections in my community about where things might already exist in your life, but you're not thinking about them with your business mind.
No, I think you're absolutely right. When we started Feed Anne Arundel, and part of the reason I think it was so successful right out of the gate was because of those partnerships. And so Feed Anne Arundel, it was actually Ryan Sermons that approached me from Anne Arundel Connecting Together. And before the pandemic, he was just a customer that came in every Sunday. He's also a pastor of a local church. And every Sunday I would say, so what's the sermon about? And it's busy at my restaurant on Sundays. And he would have to summarize. I was like, no, fast. Like, come on, 2 words, let's go. And, and I would always put him on the spot. And so anyways, we had this really interesting relationship from that perspective. And when he called, because, and this is something that we've talked about repeatedly, building relationships in the community with other people, you don't know when they're going to come into play in such an important manner, whether it's to help your business or something in the community. And so because we had that relationship, him calling me out of the blue and saying, how can restaurants help address the food insecurity issue that we know is about to hit? It was an easy conversation, an immediate conversation, and one that was built based on trust of that relationship that had already been put in place. And so that I think is key. And so ACT is an organization. It's got 28 faith-based and nonprofit organizations, and now Bread and Butter Kitchen. I tell people that they had to have at least one heathen in there that's allowed to curse. Everybody else has to behave because they have good images, and I can just be that girl that owns a restaurant. And so ACT has so many connections within the community because of who they are. Of course, 28 faith-based organizations and nonprofits. They're in the community doing things to help already. Then they actually introduced me to the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families. And they also, their mission obviously is focused on helping people within Anne Arundel County and specifically focused on children, youth, and families. And so they had connections and their boots on the ground as well. And then finally with the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation, it's a big name. People recognized it. It gave us some immediate, what's the word I'm looking for? Value or yes. So, and they handle all of our they're our fiscal sponsor. They handle all of the money. They take that part away so that I don't have to think about it and I can think about the mission itself. But I think, what's so critical about all of that is that what we've done is we've brought together all these organizations that have, may not have interacted previously and with the restaurant community. And I think for me, the biggest piece of this for restaurants that have participated in Feed Anne Arundel, the biggest takeaway for many of them has been that social interaction, the ability to really establish themselves in the community as something, as a place, a person, whether it's an individual restaurant owner or a group of restaurants that really care about their community. And there's this benefit that comes from that. And we talked about this last time we chatted, Bread and Butter Kitchen was up over 40% at the end of 2020. And 95% of that, we have an excellent food. I'm not, that is clear. But 95% of that is because the community came out to support me, to support my restaurant for what I was doing because of what they were seeing. And the same is true for all of the restaurants that participated, that took that opportunity and used it as a vehicle to kind of say to their community, to their customers, listen, we're in this community. We love this community. We're going to do everything we can to help this community. And the customers rewarded them with coming back, supporting them, buying gift cards. And so I think that, as a business owner, if you have a passion or a talent or a gift or something within your mission, if you are not reaching out to your community and finding a way to use your talents, and it can be altruistic. Obviously, Feed Anne Arundel is not a profitable thing. I don't benefit from it financially, but I benefit from it in unspeakable way, like not unspeakable, but unbelievable number of intangible ways, right? From the support from the community, from the support of customers, bringing new customers in that have never heard of me until they saw something about Feed Anne Arundel. And that I think is something that business owners really need to understand and embrace, that, it is important to not only be a part of the community from paying your rent and hiring people, but also giving back and finding a way to use your business to support the greater community. And it will only benefit businesses and the community at large.
I could not have wrapped this segment up any better than that. Thank you so much, Monica, for joining us again.
Thanks, Laura.
Talk with you, and we'll be touching base at some point in the future to find out how you all are doing, Bread and Butter Kitchen and Feed Anne Arundel as well.
Thank you. It was so great talking to you again. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.